It turns out that mankind has been fascinated with gold and silver for longer than we thought. Let's talk about it in this video as we explore. That's right, there's new evidence that shows that silver and gold were used for a whole lot longer than we had originally thought, according to a piece here by the Sound Money Defense League. It's pretty amazing, especially when we consider what we all know and understand the history of gold and silver, which goes back to ancient Turkey. Nonetheless, we know gold and silver have a lot of uses today, and if only the early Lydians knew exactly how many uses there are for silver alone, over 10,000, they would be quite flabbergasted. But gold as well. But nonetheless, you and I, we can use gold and silver to preserve our wealth. Summit Metals is a channel sponsor, and they've got a lot of gold and silver products, and platinum too, to preserve your wealth. So elevate it with Summit Metals by clicking on the link in the description below. We know that people have valued gold and silver for thousands of years, but this new evidence has revealed that people were using the metals in a much more sophisticated way earlier than originally thought. French researchers have found the oldest known indirect evidence of gold refining. That's right, to purify gold. It's been around a long time, and it's even has a greater history than we had expected. A group of people who lived in what is now Turkey in the 1960s, researchers discovered a gold refinery dating back to around 600 BC. They had originally thought that gold refining began with the Lydians, but according to science.org, Lydian refiners combined gold ore mined from the nearby Pactolus River with salt, chalk, and animal urine. That's right. Who would have thought? So next time you go to your kitty litter, when you empty your kitty litter and you smell that ammonia smell, well, that's a way you can refine some gold. Archaeologists have discovered gold artifacts that date far earlier than the development of refining, as early as 4,500 to 4,000 BC. These objects are shaped from natural gold without refining, using heating and hammering techniques. With the advent of refining, people could extract gold from ore and separate it from other metals, creating higher purity gold objects. To better understand the refining of gold, a team of researchers led by Francis Albarede from École Normale Supérieure of Lyons has analyzed Egyptian and Persian silver artifacts. They use silver artifacts because this metal is a common byproduct of gold refining. Natural gold ore typically contains between 10 and 40% silver by mass. Albarade said 4 artifacts contain silver consistent with metal produced as a byproduct of gold refining. These objects were dated earlier than 1600 BC. It looks like what you'd expect from a gold ore deposit, Albarede said. This indicated people were refining gold some 1,000 years earlier than originally thought. And most of you know that the original coins that came out of ancient Turkey and Lydia were electrum, which is a mixture of gold and silver. Those were the first coins used. So this is about 1,000 years before that. Now, in a separate finding, a multidisciplinary study conducted by researchers at the University of Haifa discovered silver was being used as money in Israel 3,600 years ago, long before the invention of coins. Researchers analyzed dozens of silver stashes dating back to the Bronze and Iron Ages. This evidence, according to Dr. Tisla Eshel, shows that despite the absence of coins, silver was regularly used as a payment method stored for future transactions by both institutions and individuals. Now, I don't know what it would be, but it says archaeologists originally thought these silver hoards were jeweler surpluses, raw metal stockpiles, or religious offerings, but evidence indicates that silver served as a weight-based currency. So many different shapes and forms. We know here the form of the most popular silver bullion coin in the world, the American Silver Eagle, it has a very tidy weight and is recognized the world round. Nonetheless, back in the day, it's the metal itself that was recognized for its intrinsic value, its worth, for its weight. And indeed, and so they just weighed it out, and that really provided the foundation for essentially the modern day movement of being able to stack gold and silver and to hold them and to transact in them in this way. Eshel said this reveals that sophisticated money-based economies evolved earlier than previously thought. The first coins appeared in the 7th century BC, but monetary system principles, uniformity, value control, and even forgery operated here centuries earlier. The continuous use of silver points to a sophisticated economy that evolved organically and within society. It just wasn't monetized or didn't have a denomination on it. It was not coined. And that really is kind of the beginning of what we would say the modern transactions. But in all honesty, looking at this new evidence, it looks like it was used by weight before in many different forms. It supports the Carl Menger theory on money. In his 1871 essay on the origins of money, the Austrian economist presented a theory that money emerged spontaneously over time. It was not created by government decree or fiat. That's a very important distinction. Our early cultures bartered goods directly, but quickly learned from this and was an inefficient process due to the double coincidences of wants. For a barter trade to occur, both parties must want what the other has at the same time. This led to indirect exchange. People realized they could trade for things that didn't necessarily want, but that they could trade for things that they did want later. For instance, if a farmer might trade corn for salt, even if he doesn't need salt, because he knows that others value it and he can later trade it for tools and cattle. Of course, salt was actually used as a currency at one time. So it's an apropos example. Over time, certain commodities, specifically gold and silver, became more widely accepted and evolved into money because they satisfied the requirements for good money. That's the key phrase here, good money. Scarcity, divisibility, durability, and recognizability. And I will add in there store of value. And that's what makes good money. What makes something as a store of value does not necessarily mean that it is a healthy store of value. This is a store of value, but it is recognized as a declining store of value over time. But it's a managed decline of store of value. And it's recognized worldwide, but nonetheless, gold and silver maintain their value because they operate on a system greater than price. But the price reflects that value, at least to some extent, and we're witnessing it in grand scale here this year in 2025 when this video is being recorded. Governments later monopolized coinage, but money emerged naturally long before, and that's the lesson here that I think we can take away from this that I think is quite pronounced and pretty amazing. That's why states across the nation here in the United States are recognizing what the Constitution says, that nothing but gold and silver shall be used as money from Article 1, Section 10. And that means, folks, that they are recognizing gold and silver as legal tender because of the Constitution and being mentioned in the Bible, because we know that the dollar is going to be changing soon, and it is devaluing year over year at a rate of more than what they target for inflation. That's the Federal Reserve, and that is 2%. And so we're obviously above that now. Now, the recent discovery in Israel supports the theory by Carl Menger. The bottom line is that gold and silver have been valued throughout most of human history, and of course, it is still valued today. People all over the world still accept gold and silver, even if they don't want dollars, euros, or yuan. And that's true, but less so here in the West. But still, there's a growing sentiment and a growing movement towards gold and silver. I'm seeing more and more new folks come to this channel saying that they're new to stacking, and I hope this video will help encourage them that they're doing the right thing by holding gold and silver, because it is not active money. It is indeed dormant to a great degree, although gold, one can make an argument, a cogent one, that is being traded between central banks, but really it's being accumulated by central banks more so than anything. not necessarily being sold off, except for a few rare exceptions. So there you have it. Let me know what your thoughts are about this video and about gold and silver being discovered long before and being utilized long before governments ever got involved. I'd like to extend a multitude of gratitude to each and every one of you for taking the time to watch, and encourage you to please rate, share, comment, and subscribe.